let's talk about absolute values. In operation between numbers, we can use absolute value. Well, what's the definition of absolute value? The definition is absolute value of a number like x is the distance between that number or x and 0. So the absolute value of x is denoted by two vertical lines, and inside you're going to use x itself. It is denoted by absolute value of x. So it is just the distance between x and 0. Remember that when you're talking about the number line, on the number line, we have 0 in the middle. This is 0. We have some positive numbers representing positive part of x-axis and some negative numbers on the left-hand side. So what is the distance? Suppose I ask you to find absolute value of 2. What's the meaning of that? It means that we want to know what is the distance between 2 and 0, the origin. All right. So where is 2? 2 is just located here. The distance between 2 and 0 is 2 units. So you're going to say that, hey, the absolute value of 2 is equal to 2, the distance. Another example. Suppose I ask you to find the absolute value of -2. What's the meaning of that? It means that I'm asking you to find a distance. What is the distance between -2 and 0? Well, okay, there is -2. -2 is just right here on the left-hand side. I want to know what is the distance, the measurement between -2 and 0. So that, hey, 1 unit, 2 units. So the absolute value of -2 is equal to 2 as well. 2 units. Units, measurements cannot be negative. All of them are positive. If you are looking for the distance between 0 and 0, that distance is equal to 0. So another example for you. The absolute value of 0, or the distance. What is the distance between 0 and itself? Of course it is 0. Absolute value of 0 is equal to 0. So in general, we define absolute value this way. We say that, hey, they have a general definition for the absolute value. The absolute value of x is, it's defined as a piecewise definition. It has 2 pieces. We say that, hey, when x is positive, if it's a positive number like 2, you're going to copy down x as the absolute value of x. If it is 0, if x is equal to 0, the absolute value of 0 is going to be just 0. So if x is equal to 0, then absolute value of x is just 0. However, when x is a negative number, when x is less than 0, a negative number like -2, then you put a negative sign in front of your x, you get minus x. That's how we define the absolute value in general definition. So if somebody asks you to define absolute value, you say that, hey, the absolute value of a number like x is the distance. That's the focus here, is the distance between x and 0. How do we represent the absolute value? We represent the absolute value this way. Well, what is the mathematical definition? The mathematical definition of absolute value is defined as if x is a positive number, then you copy down x as the distance between x and 0. If x is exactly 0, the distance from 0 to 0 is just 0. But if x is negative, then you're going to put a negative sign in front of your x. Let's go over some more examples. The very first example says, hey, what is the absolute value of negative a third? Well, a third is just a fraction, it's just a number. It has a negative sign in front of it. So let us follow the definition. It says x is negative. So my x is negative a third, which is less than 0. Less than 0. So by definition, absolute value of negative a third is equal to, we have to put a negative sign in front of our x. This is my x, which is negative. I put a negative sign in front of my negative number. Negative times negative gives you positive a third. So the distance between negative a third and 0 is positive a third. Remember that your distance, when you're representing the distance using numbers, must be positive. Another example for you. What is the absolute value of minus pi? Remember what pi is. Pi is just a number. Approximately, we write pi as 3.14, am I right? So pi is just a number. Approximately, we write it as 3.14. So pi is a positive number, but it has a negative sign in front of it. It means that you are dealing with the third case, x is less than 0. So the absolute value of x is negative x. It means that I have to put a negative sign in front of my negative pi. So the absolute value of negative pi is equal to minus pi, which is positive pi. The distance representing as a number must be positive. The distance cannot be negative. It's a physical measurement. What's the measurement of this marker? It cannot be a negative number. If I use a ruler and I measure this marker, it's a positive number.